Hello and good to see you back. I'm Yulia Kosarenko, and today I will start with a story. Someone asked me at a conference recently, how do you engage senior business stakeholders in business analysis? How do you attract the attention of an executive to the important points? The story I told them was a story of a use case diagram. I once drew a simple diagram for my first meeting with an executive sponsor of a project. I prefaced it with, I would like to validate with you what departments will be impacted by this change. Here is what I drew. What you see is a business use case diagram. It's very simple and business friendly. It doesn't look intimidating. You don't need any certifications or special training to interpret it. It was perfect for the purpose. Guess what happened? I didn't have to explain that each stick person represents a role. It was clear from the labels. I didn't have to talk at length that each oval is a business use case or provide a definition of a business use case. The meaning that I wanted this diagram to convey was clear from the pictures, the labels, and the lines. The reaction from my stakeholder was immediate. Oh, I get it. It makes sense when you put it like that. This diagram turned out to be the only icebreaker we needed to work well together. We discussed every stick person, every oval, every line, made some updates and corrected some words. And then we used an improved version of this diagram for the whole project in different variations. Of course, I've created more diagrams. We had a roadmap to show the phased approach, we had some process flows and some architecture diagrams. But this one was our anchor. So when the next project came up, the first question from the same executive was, are you going to draw one of those stick people diagrams again? And that was my proof that it worked. So what if he didn't remember the name of the diagram? What if he never bothered to clarify the difference between business use cases and system use cases? It did not matter in that context. The diagram played its role as a communication tool. And this is what diagrams and models are first and foremost, communication tools. That's why this video is about old-fashioned and humble use case diagrams, or to appease the sticklers about business use case diagrams. Okay, so what is it? It has three self-explanatory elements: the boundary, the actors, and the use cases. This rectangle is the boundary. Usually the boundary of a system or a future solution being designed. It should be clear to anyone seeing this that we are depicting an online ordering system. We just need to label the boundary appropriately. The stick people are the actors, the stakeholders that will use the solution. Think of the actors in terms of the roles. For example, service representative or procurement managers. Actors may be internal, such as the roles within the company, and external, in our case, customers. We distinguish between the roles based on what is relevant to the problem we are solving. For example, in our diagram, we distinguish between a customer and a prospective customer because we will treat them differently. Prospective customers will not have access to some features of the solution until they sign up and become active customers. On the other hand, you may have many titles in your company for service representatives, junior, senior, team leads. If their role in the business process we are analyzing is the same, we don't need to create separate actors for each. It will only clutter the diagram. Instead, one actor, called service representative, will do. Now back to the purpose of the diagram, to indicate the actors that will use the solution and what they need to use it for, shown as use cases. For example, what does a customer need? To view the menu, place orders, and be able to change an order if they happen to change their mind. The ovals within are business use cases. They will be connected by lines to the actors that have the needs captured inside the ovals. The main difference between system use cases and business use cases is that business use cases are focused on business needs, use business language, and are not dependent on the design or technology. The diagram itself then is at a higher level. System use cases were often done at the design stage and would be more specific to the architecture and design of the particular solution. If we were sticklers for notations, then I would have to make a disclaimer. The ovals were originally used for system use cases, and business use cases had an additional diagonal line like this. To be honest, I haven't seen anyone use system use case diagrams on a project in a very, very long time. But we still use business cases, and I don't worry too much about omitting the diagonals. Less clutter. Business stakeholders that we are doing this for won't mind. What is more important is to get the labels right. Keep labels at the business level. Use verb plus noun format consistently. Be brief. Drop those articles. Focus on stakeholder goals. What do they need? Use strong and meaningful verbs. And finally, and that applies to any diagram, make sure you use correct terminology. Let's go back to our diagram for the online ordering system. We use simple lines to connect actors with their use cases. Now, in a system use case diagram, there is a variety of connections such as extends and includes, but we don't need to go that far because we are working with business use cases. A line means there is a relationship. No line means this actor will not use a particular function. That's it. Simple. Note that the diagram will show whether a certain function or feature can be used by multiple actors. For example, an order may be changed by customer or by service representative. Here is the rest of the use cases. A prospective customer will need to create a profile to become a customer and to view the menu. Service representatives will view menus, place orders, and help customers expedite orders. Notice, by the way, that I'm not including the articles in the labels to minimize the number of words. Instead of view menu is sufficient. Finally, we have a procurement manager that will get ingredient requests from the system as new orders come in, and the meal manager that will change the menu, update prices, and view reports to know which menu items are more popular. Now that we've created a simple use case diagram, let's talk a bit more about its usage. A classic use case diagram has a single system boundary. The focus is on one solution or system. It may be sufficient for discussing the system itself. In real life, however, whenever we capture the scope of a solution or a system, we need to keep the context in mind. And the context usually involves other systems. A use case diagram that focuses on one system only will leave some questions unanswered. What about other use cases that are not in the diagram? How will those be accomplished? Is anything done manually? Do these tech people do other things? Many organizations manage complex landscapes of legacy systems, new applications, and COTS implementations with various degrees of integration. In these cases, a use case diagram that shows several systems can help understand who does what and where. Adding more to the model can save you a lot of explaining and additional narrative. Let's go back to our example. This project is going to build an online ordering system. The boundary of the new system has been defined and use cases in scope have been captured. Now, do you understand how the order will be processed end to end? Not really, as the new system only deals with a part of the process. What happens with the orders that are ready for delivery? How are the deliveries scheduled? Who ensures that all required ingredients are purchased? This is where an expanded use case diagram comes in handy. In an expanded diagram, we can see other systems that are involved and what use cases each system supports. Even without explicitly showing integrations between systems, we have more useful information about the context of the new solution. Let's look at this example now. This diagram shows that there are 3 different systems that are required to manage orders. Say, in addition to the new online ordering system that needs to be built, the company already has 2 other systems, an inventory management system and a delivery optimization system. A procurement manager will get ingredient requests from the online ordering system and will need to update the inventory and order more supplies using the inventory management system. A service representative will use two systems: online ordering and delivery optimization. When a customer requests an expedited delivery, the order will be changed in the online ordering system. Then the service representative will use the delivery optimization system to place the request for expedited delivery there. Another actor, delivery coordinator, will schedule the delivery. This way, you can show all the systems and use cases required to complete a customer journey. At this point, you may counteract that a swim lane diagram can also be used to show how an end-to-end process works. It's true, but swim lane diagrams can quickly become dense and complicated. Business stakeholders, especially busy top-level managers, don't necessarily want to examine them, and most of the time, they don't need to. A swim lane diagram will show the sequencing and the order of execution of various activities depending on a set of conditions. This is useful later on during business process analysis. At the beginning of the project, and as a way to depict the context, a use case diagram is simpler and easier to understand. Now, if you go back to the extended use case diagram in our example, I want to highlight several advantages. It captures use cases across the end-to-end process. It captures multiple systems required to support complete user experience. It highlights actors that must use multiple systems to do their job, so-called swivel chair experience. It brings attention to interfaces, automated or manual, that must exist to exchange data between systems. It shows the complexity of the system interconnections at a high level, reminds the stakeholders that the new system will not replace all those other old clunkers. And finally, it indicates potential impacts of a particular project on other systems and stakeholders. By the way, one of the interesting uses of an extended use case diagrams I've created before was that test managers love them. It helped them understand what systems will be required for user acceptance testing, or as it's usually called, UAT. During UAT, we not only test the system or systems undergoing the changes. For proper end-to-end testing, we need all other systems that participate in the complete process, even if there are no code changes in them. This is needed to validate whether the new functionality is compatible, consistent, and integrates well with all other applications. The more system involved, or the less time we had for proper business analysis upfront, the more issues we may find both upstream and downstream during integration testing and UAT. And the extended use case diagram will tell us where to look. In conclusion, a business use case diagram is the ultimate business-friendly visual to capture the scope of the solution and the main functionality of the system for each user group. Use it next time you want to make sure everyone understands the scope, validates the stakeholders, and confirm the main business terms. An extended use case diagram is helpful when the features you're building or modifying are part of the larger landscape of multiple systems and the end-to-end process traverses multiple applications. Finally, as always, use the right diagrams for the right reasons. Thank you for staying with me to the end. I'm Yulia Kosarenko, and this is Why Change channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to learn more about business analysis and how to make changes successful. In the next video, I will show you how to create use case diagrams using 3 different tools: Visio, Lucidchart, and PowerPoint. Until next time, take care.